Welcome, horror fans, to a spine chilling episode of the Looks Creepy Cool podcast. As we kick off Women's History Month, we're thrilled to introduce you to Mahée Merica, a visionary female horror filmmaker. Mahée's talent knows no bounds. Her gripping masterpiece, Ariana's Baby, clinched the prestigious title of Best Psychological Horror Short at the 2023 Haunted House FearFest Festival. But her journey into the dark realms of storytelling began long before her accolades. So, dear listeners, settle in and let Mahée guide you through the labyrinth of her chilling creations. This is a journey you won't soon forget. Welcome, everyone, to the Looks Creepy Cool podcast, where creativity and creepy storytelling knows no bounds. I'm your host, Renee, owner of Haunted House FearFest Film and Video Game Festival and Looks Creepy Cool Studios. And I'm thrilled to introduce my co-host, Louise, producer of the podcast and festival judge for Haunted House FearFest. Today, we're diving into the creepy storytelling mind of Mahée Merica, a storyteller at heart who embarked on her creative journey from the moment she could speak. Her passion for storytelling led her to create her first short film, Unsignée, which quickly gained recognition at over 20 festivals. This early success fueled her desire to hone her craft, leading her to McGill University in Montreal, Canada. Throughout her career, Mahée has traversed various roles in the world of cinema, working on short and independent feature films across Canada, France, and Australia. Her quest for mastery brought her to the UK, where she pursued a master's degree in filmmaking at the London Film School, directing both fiction and documentary films. Now a graduate, Mahée is dedicated to promoting her graduation film, Ariana's Baby, which won the 2023 Best Psychological Horror Short at the Haunted House FearFest Festival. With a penchant for playing with genre conventions, Mahée seeks to provoke her viewers' emotions and thoughts through her work. Join us as we delve into the creative mind of Mahée and explore the captivating world of storytelling. Let's dive in. Mahée, nice to meet you. Thank you for coming on again. Nice to see you again.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
Of course, of course. So, Louise, so you're in the UK right now or France right now?
I'm in the UK right now.
Oh, awesome, awesome. How's the
Yeah.
weather there? Because here it's okay. It's not too bad. We're in New York.
In London it's changing all the time. Like this morning was very sunny. Here it looks like it's gonna rain, but we never really know. It's never really staying consistent.
No, it never does. It never does. Well, Louise and I are super thrilled to have you. And I'm just going to kick it off by I know I mentioned to you in our conversation before the podcast that I watched your 2017 YouTube interview while you're working for APA, which is a literary and talent agency. And you discuss how you want to be a screenwriter and director. Now you're a screenwriter and a director, most notably Ariana's Baby, again winning the 2023 Best Psychological Horror Short at the Haunted House Fear Fest Festival. So, can you share with us and our listeners your journey in getting to this point? Because when I watched the YouTube interview, it was very inspiring, like how you started, and I forget the guy's name, but like you met like your favorite actor, you watched like his film at the time. It was so long ago. So, just curious to know your journey. You can just go with it.
Yeah, I cannot believe you filmed from this video. It's it's really well. So in 2017, at the time I just graduated from McGill University. So initially, when I went there, I started studying political sciences because my parents made me believe that's what I wanted to do. And once I was there, I realized that it wasn't really, and I really liked the cinema classes I took there. I knew I wanted to tell a story from the beginning, like since I was a kid. I've been writing short stories when I was a child. I never really experienced with making films before going to university, but I really liked visual storytelling, and I really was interested in cinema. But I always thought that I couldn't really live from it, and I was trying to do something on the side. And so the thing on the side was studying political sciences in case I don't even know what I was trying to become with that. I guess a journalist. But yeah, when I was a kid, I was telling my parents that I was really interested in understanding the human psyche and like sociological issues around human beings. I was telling them I would love to know what was the hard part of the Middle Age, or why did the Nazis ended up voting for Hitler? And they were like, "Oh, this is political sciences," and I was like, "Okay, cool." And it wasn't political sciences at all. And so I started doing cinema classes there, which made me switch my major to cultural studies. I studied cultural studies. Sorry, how did they react?
How did they react?
So when I first told them I didn't like political sciences, it was early on. It was like towards the first half of my first year, and they told me do one more semester, and if you still don't like it, then you can change. And I've been lucky that they were accepting that. Both my parents are really, they do not have artistic career at all, but they're both really interested in arts, and they both really are avid readers and really like films and culture in general. So they were kind enough to agree that I changed my major. And what was nice is that because I already did like a first year of political science, so initially political science was my major and cultural studies my minor, I was able to switch them around, and I already did like half of my classes, so I didn't really have to bother with political sciences anymore after that. And so I finished my guild, and then I was looking to work a bit in the film industry in Canada. I wanted to work. I knew I wanted to go to a film school, but first I wanted to gain a bit experience on set and like practical experience. At the time, I found this internship program. I don't know if it still exists, but at the time it was called Creative Mind, which was an internship program. You apply to the program, and then they give you a partnership with a company that is related to filmmaking during the big festival you've been selected to. So the one you saw in this video was TIFF, so the Toronto International Film Festival, and I was working with APA, which was really great because it was a really cool internship. They made me go watch movie, and I had to like write summaries of what I thought of the film, and if I thought there were like some talents to be watched. So it was really enjoyable. And the actor you mentioned is Fred. It's so cool. Like I love to actually. I would do that again. I'd love to be paid to just go watch films and like, what did you think of them? And it was really amazing. And the actor you mentioned, his name is Frederick Lowe. He's really talented. And so I did that for a bit. Then I ended up finding a job as a director's assistant. So I worked for a year as the assistant of a director named Tina Adams. So I was doing a lot in there because I was combining elements. It was on her feature films, which were very independent production. So I was her assistant in that I was like following her, shadowing her in everything she was doing. But I was also working on set as a first assistant director. I helped a bit with some production aspects as well. And after that, I went to study at London Film School. And there I had a way more hands-on practical teaching, where I learned to actually I learned how to work in every single department. Until then, all the films I was making were really homemade movies with my friends. Even Unseen, my first film, is a film I wrote over an afternoon because I was bored and I decided to shoot it with my friends. And so that like led me towards a more professional path. And after, in parallels of my studies at London Film School, I was also working as a production designer. So I was doing a lot of set design, which was really nice. But then I decided to focus more on what I really want to do, which is writing and directing. And I ended up doing my graduation film. I shot it. Today would actually be the anniversary of the last day of the shoot. I shot it 2 years ago exactly.
Oh, wow. Oh my gosh, we're so honored. Wow.
And thank you. And then I ever since I've been working on. So that was 2 years ago, but I actually like the shoot finished 2 years ago, but it was still like a good 6 months of post-production after that. And And then I did one more gig as a production designer before deciding to really focus on directing. And for the past 3 months, I've been in France working on a short film that I'm supposed to direct pretty soon. And now I'm back in London to focus on another short film that I'm trying to do in English this time.
Wow.
In London.
I think it's amazing. Like even your journey when you mentioned political science, I was a political science major. I wanted to be a lawyer. And it was just wasn't for me. And then like the way you described your journey, like in your passion, I think that's the key. Like once you're passionate about something, just go for it because like you'll be more at peace and in line with what you really do want to do and what you're destined to do, which is amazing. So
I think so too. I think it's like it is sometimes really difficult, especially when I see my friends. I'm like right now I'm reaching an age where my friends who decided to go for a more traditional route. I see them like being more established and like earning good money and like becoming real adults. And here it's sometimes a bit more difficult because it's way more precarious. You always have to like run after the next job, try to convince people that your film is worth making. But I can tell that like I really feel sometimes I'm wondering, oh, what would I do if I stop? And I cannot think about anything. Like that's really what not only what I want to do, but what I feel like the only thing I can really do.
Right. It wakes you up in the morning, you know.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, it's your purpose. That's great.
Yeah, even when it's difficult, it's good remembering myself that. And it's also nice to have people who are supporting, like the fact that my parents were happy to let me follow that, and hearing my friends being very encouraging about it. It's really nice. Yeah. And it helps.
No, it's great because a lot of parents aren't very supportive and everything, or they don't understand. So, no, that's really good. Yeah.
Yeah, mine have their limits. I think I might reach, but they've been pretty supportive so far.
Oh, that's great. That's great.
In your film, Ariana's Baby, there is a tremendous scene where the mother draws some ghoulish pictures. In addition to being a director, are you also an illustrator, and does illustration inspire your art in any way?
So no, I didn't draw it. So yeah, I do draw a bit, but I didn't draw these specific designs. It's an artist whose name, I'm so sorry, I just have to check on my notes because I don't know him personally.
Great artist though. Yeah,
he's amazing. And so I met him through my makeup artist whose name is Sophie Berestadt.
Great.
Sophie is an amazing artist as well. She did an amazing job with the makeup. Definitely. She's quite big here in England because she won the Glow Up competition.
Oh wow! Okay.
And yeah, she's been amazing at doing the makeup of the film, and she introduced me to her friend whose name is Henry, but I know that his first name. I just forgot his last name. And I'm trying to find it, and I can't find it anymore. I'll check it and tell you, and we can make it work. But yeah, Henry has been drawing this. He made a little booklet for us. So Sophie and I came up with what we wanted to be in the booklet because we wanted it to be reminiscent of her makeup in the film.
Oh wow!
And then we just told Henry, and he did an amazing job. Like he just gave us, I think he did it very quickly as well, like in 3 days or something. And yeah, that was great. I really wanted to have that to give us a more a proper access to Ariane's psyche and see like how her evolution, because it's a short film. We didn't really get a chance to see a lot of her past and backstory, and I wanted to show that she already had some issues with probably depression in the past. Since she doesn't really talk much during the film either, I think it's nice to to have these moments where we can understand what she's thinking without having her to talk, which we're trying to emulate with the camera anyway, but I also liked having it being very visual through the images.
Right.
And yeah, initially the film was a bit longer, and there was a scene towards the end where it was supposed to be like a kind of an epilogue where we discovered that Ariana indeed gave the baby up for adoption, and that she is now living a new life with a new partner, establishing herself as an illustrator, but discovers she's pregnant again, and that makes her like all the questions about motherhood emerge again. And it's happening during a trick-or-treat Halloween day, so like a few kids are coming to trick-or-treats, and one of them has all the eyes on his face just like the baby she had. So yeah, that I really liked it, but I felt like it didn't I really liked it, and it's a great scene, and every department did an amazing job in it. Like the cinematography was very different from the film, and the makeup was amazing. Like we put the eyes on this little kid who was so he was so patient. Luca, he was adorable as well. So it was a bit heartbreaking for me to cut it down, but I felt like it's I like the end of the film to be a bit. I like to ask questions in my films rather than bring answers, and I felt like having this ending where we're not really sure whether she's gonna give the baby up for adoption or not is gonna make the viewer resonate more with wondering what they would do if they were in her shoes. And yeah, I think even though I really like the ending I had, this one is my favorite, the one we currently have in the film. But yeah, and to go back to the initial question, I do draw a bit, I paint a bit as well. I'm not great at it, but it definitely helps to bring to life some vision, or like it's just a really great meditative tool for me as well to get inspired when I want to start thinking about projects. I usually start drawing and see where it leads me. So yeah, there's definitely a connection there.
Oh, great, that's awesome. So why did you choose to make a horror film about expected motherhood?
So I love horror films. They're my favorite. It's really my favorite genre. I think it's amazing because they don't just make you think, and they don't just provoke emotions. Like a lot of films are doing that, and I think it's great. But they also provoke some physical sensations. And it's not just your brain and your heart that are working when you watch a horror film. It's also your whole body. And I think it's really interesting to experiment with that. And I also really like how historically they've been the ones that started experimenting with like visual forms of filmmaking. In the 30s, the expressionist films are really similar to what would be called experimental today, and it also really looks horror-y. They also use horror and entertainment to talk about important subject matters. Like we again here in the 60s, we can talk about like the Night of the Living Dead and how it's been actually talking about institutionalized racism, but under the form of horror. And nowadays, it's still a genre that is leading the way in that sense. So I always wanted to make horror films. My school was more drama led. A lot of the graduation film are more dramas. And initially, I was a bit scared to go down the horror routes because I wanted to do what I was more familiar with, which was drama. But as I was trying to write my dramas, they all felt like they were missing something. They felt like I was hiding something, and I really wanted to make it fun for myself and not just write a film that has a good story. I wanted to enjoy the process of doing it. And during the time I was like experimenting with like different stories, I watched the show, the Glow Up makeup contest show that Sophie was taking part in, and I got really inspired by a lot of the work she did there, because she was really able to tell a story through her makeup. So Sophie is she is autistic, and she has been doing a makeup that is inspired by how she has to mask in society and try to appear neurotypical. And just the makeup was telling such a great story and passing an amazing message, and it was beautiful to look at, and it looked like she had so much fun doing it. And I thought that was really inspiring. And I was like, oh, I really want to make a horror film after watching that, because I really want to be able to experiment with makeup in that way. And then I kind of decided that I wanted to make a horror film around the same time as when I found my theme. During that summer, my childhood's best friend's sister also had her first child, and hearing about it and seeing like the behind the scenes of it, I realized that it's the imagination of what is it to have a child versus what it's actually like to be a child is so different. And I just realized that just hearing about her experience. And that made me more interested in discovering what are the actual difference between what we expect motherhood to be like versus what it really is like. And it started provoking a lot of questions within myself as well. I started wondering whether or not I wanted to become a mom eventually down the road. And I just think that even though there are a lot of amazing things about motherhood, a lot of it is really scary when you think about it. Like you have an unknown being that is growing up in your stomach for 9 months. You don't know this little creature. It's like an alien. and then when it's born, you're like 100% dependent. They are 100% dependent on you. You're responsible of everything that happens to them. And I think it's really scary to think about that, because I feel like when you try too hard to do something good, then you become an overwhelming mother. And if you are on the opposite, more chill, then you are maybe not strict enough and to relax, not a good mother. And I feel like there are so many societal pressure on it. Like you can never get it right. When you're being relaxed, you're being too relaxed. When you're being strict, you're being too strict. On top of this, we expect women now to not only be mothers, but also to keep it an aspect, like a part of their womanhood and femininity in their identity, which is really tricky to manage, to remain a woman and be a mom at the same time. And I just thought this was really frightening, and we don't really talk about it. And I thought that horror is a perfect medium to talk about that. And so that's why like both of them kind of clashed together, and that's how the story was created. And
No, you bring up a good point. It doesn't you don't really understand the other side of motherhood, and it is scary. I mean, I'm a pet parent, and already I'm exhausted sometimes. I can't imagine, having a little human. It's a lot. So
yeah, I remember the day before I turned 25, I was in a park. And I think that's actually the roots of all this story. The day before I turned 25, I was in a park, and there was a family with 2 children and 2 dogs. And they called the children and the dogs to come back. And the dogs came back, but the children kept running. And I vividly remember being like, oh, yeah, when you have children, they're the one ruling. They are the one who decides when you sleep. They are the one who decide when you play with them. They're the one who decide when you eat. And that for like at least 18 years. And yeah, I think it's really impressive to be a parent. I have lots of respect for parents. But I also believe that a lot of people are doing it because that's what you're supposed to do. And I kind of want to make people question whether they really want to do it because they want to do it, or whether they're doing it because that's just the next step in your life.
Right. So what inspired the scene in your horror film when there is relentless knocking at the door, and have you ever had anything like that happen to you? It was so scary.
Thank you. I'm glad you found it scary, because it was the scariest part of the script for me. So so writing a horror film, I wanted it to be meaningful, but I also wanted it to be scary because that's kind of the goal of a horror film. And I personally, there aren't a lot of horror films that really scare me. I'm not really scared of like ghosts or monsters. But in my film, the theme of motherhood and the fears are materialized in the form of monsters, and I wanted to still try to find a way to make these monsters scary. And so I decided to incorporate it with my worst fear in horror, which is the home invasions film. I think the home invasions film are the scariest for me by far. And so I wanted to incorporate this element of you think you're safe, but you're not. You're at home, and like even your home is getting invaded. And I think it's also a nice reflection on how, as a woman who's pregnant, your body is getting invaded by a baby. What you think it's yourself, it's your home, but there is something alien getting in it. It's really awful. Like I'm not thinking about that all the time. I think like motherhood can be amazing and wonderful, but in like the vocabulary of the film, I think it was interesting to make the parallel between these two. I also think that having a baby in your stomach makes you an even more vulnerable target.
Yeah.
Because when you're being hit or attacked, it's not only about you, it's about the baby, and any little movements can just kill him. So I thought it was really scary to have this monster trying to get in. We don't really know what he wants. To me, what is scary as well is when you don't really know what the creature wants and why you're being attacked. If you don't know what they want, you cannot really find a way to fight back. And so yeah, having this home invasion thing, I think it's the real the first real moment where true horror is entering Arian's life. We had a nightmare scene a bit earlier in the film, but the monsters moment are really starting with this moment, and I really wanted to start it this way to really create tension and thrill. And to answer the second part to this question, it never happened to me, though it happened to me multiple times. In London, I live in Camden, which is a really cool neighborhood. It's the former punk neighborhood. I love it, but it's also a bit of a dodgy area sometimes. There are a lot of people getting stabbed. And it's pretty intense. And yeah, like it happened to me maybe 2 times already that people would ring at my door in the middle of the night. And the ring here is also pretty awful. Maybe you'll be lucky to hear it later on, because you can hear it from, like, when someone rings at your neighbor's door, you can hear it in all the building. And so that was a bit scary for me, because I since I love horror films, I started like imagining scary things, but it was nothing compared to a real home invasion. I hope it's never gonna happen to me, because even though I watched so many films, I had no idea how I'd survive.
Wow.
That's crazy. I wish we could hear it now, but
maybe that could be a sound
maybe
future work.
Yeah, I can record it and use it as an effect.
Yeah. And then the props in your film were really awesome. How important are props to you as a filmmaker?
So yeah, as I said earlier, I used to work as a production designer for a bit. So props are really important to me. Like I'm placing a lot of emphasis on it. The person who took care of the production design in my film is Abby Quinlan, and she's amazing. She's really, really she shares this eye to detail and finding like ways to symbolically create pieces that can bring more to the theme, just like materialize elements of the theme through the props. She's been like designing a few props herself, which is, yeah, I was really blessed to have her on set. And so yeah, for me, props are really important because they literally materialize the theme of a film. They allow us to, I really like making films that have a tangible feeling. As I was saying earlier, horror films, I really like their sensation provoking aspect. I really like that in drama as well. A lot of social realist drama have this emphasis on like texture of the skin, texture of the hair, and I like to bring that to the props as well, because I think playing with the sensations allow the viewer to identify with the character better, and I think in a horror film it's like paramount that your audience identify with the character, and by creating these sensations I hope that it allows the viewer to really place themselves in Arian's shoes and to feel what she feels, especially given how Arian's body is involved in the film. I wanted to, by putting the emphasis on the props, I really wanted to create this sensation emphasis on for the later scenes where Arian's is giving birth, for instance. If I allow the viewer to really feel what Arian has been feeling until now, then it would be even more intense during these scenes. So yeah, props. I also think it's really good to show how what like a character's background. So earlier we were talking about the drawings Arian was doing. It's great to show a character's personality. You can tell so much about a character by the props that surround them. So props and set dressing are definitely, for me, as important as cinematography. And I feel like we don't often talk about props and production design. When a film looks good, we usually congratulate the cinematographer. And I think I'm not spitting on cinematographers. I think they're doing a great job. My cinematographer in that film is amazing too. Her name is Sherry Aluni, and she did an amazing job as well. But I think production design and cinematography often are like combined, like they have to be combined in a proper way to make something look nice and create this identification with the character. And it's important to emphasize how production design is important in that regard.
Definitely. And was your film inspired by the film Rosemary's Baby?
Yeah, it was in part. I think it is always a bit tricky for me to talk about Rosemary's Baby because I love this film, but as a feminist and as a woman who's like talking about films are surrounding women experiences, it's always a bit hard for me to talk about a Polanski's film and talk about how amazing it is. But I do think it's a really amazing film. Because it was actually earlier when I was talking about Night of the Living Dead, I think Rosemary's Baby was doing the same about women. It was talking about sexism very early on. It's talking about the politics surrounding women bodies in the 60s. And I think it's amazing that someone did a film like that, and it's even more a man. So it was definitely an inspiration because I really liked the first time I watched Rosemary's Baby. I really liked how you couldn't tell if she was becoming crazy or not, if she was losing her mind. You couldn't know if we were supposed to trust her or if we were supposed to trust her husband and the rest of the society around them. And I think it was really clever in that regard because it emphasized even more the message behind it. And it was, for me, it was definitely a big inspiration in that sense of, is the main character reliable? Is what they're showing to us something we can really trust or not? I think the idea of pregnant women having their hormones playing trick on them is a bit of a misogynistic one, but it's an interesting one to exploit in horror film and reinforce this aspect of whether she's reliable or not. And yeah, no, I think there has been a lot of great horrific scenes in that film. And so it was definitely a reference, and the title of the name is the name of the film is definitely a reference to Rosemary's Baby.
Definitely,
Yeah.
right now.
So As a horror female filmmaker in Europe, can you share with us what the industry landscape is like for women in the horror genre in this particular cultural and professional context, and what unique opportunities and challenges have you encountered compared to your counterparts in other countries, and how do you navigate all that? Because I know in the US it's different compared to how it is in Europe, and it's just curious to know what the differences are since you live there.
So in Europe in general, compared to the US, you have a bigger funding system, I think. In UK, you have a main one, and in France, you have another big one, but it's coming up more regularly through the year. So they're both like public administrations that are funding films based with public money, and you have to apply, send a big file with a lot of details about what your film's going to be like, and they will support you financially. And generally, when they support you financially, it also comes with like a help towards the development of the script. So developing the script in a better way, helps with finding locations and things like that. So it's really nice. I think I'm not sure you have that in the US.
No, right, Louise?
There are incentives and things,
Right.
but nothing like that in the US.
No. Like, who would help
So
us,
they,
like, locate? Yeah, I couldn't even.
Right.
Right, it'll be us.
it's really great, but it's very selective and it's difficult to obtain. And it's also at the moment, in my opinion, it's still very drama centric. They are, most of the films that end up being produced through these funds are dramas, and it's getting better and better, and it's getting more and more open towards genre films, and not only horror but also comedy and like romantic comedies and sci-fi, but it's still really rare. And well, I'll like to be positive, so I think it's a good step that we're getting better with it. But it's still not like an easy just easy way to make your film made, especially if it's genre. And that is for everyone. More specifically to women, I have to say that from what I've seen, the horror film festivals I've been in England so far and in Europe, they are still really male led. There are like most of the film are still made by men, and the audience is really masculine. But it's still really nice because like they're really welcoming, and they're really open about films made by women, and talking about female subject matters. I've been surprised to see some of the reaction from like male audience. Once my film has been shown to a group of like teenage boys from like first year of university in Ireland, and
Ariana's baby.
yeah, and one of them came to see me at the end, and I think that was such a lovely comment. He told me that the movie really inspired him to be more present for his girlfriend when she'll be pregnant. And I think it's really nice to see that male audience can resonate with it as well. And so but it's still really male led, but I don't think it's I don't see it, like when I say that, I don't see it with a bad connotation as some people can say it sometimes. I wish there were more female directors in horror, but I think it's becoming more and more the case. I think in Europe we have a lot of great female horror director. The one that comes on top of my head is my favorite one, whose name is Julia Ducournau. She's French, and she made a very good horror film called Raw, and then she made her second film, Titan, that won the Palme d'Or a couple of years ago. And so I think women like this are really inspiring younger women to do the same. And I think there are definitely more and more female filmmakers in my surrounding, and female horror filmmaker as well. So yeah, I don't know. It's hard for me to really compare it to the US because I've been to the Haunted Hearts Film Fest, but I haven't really been like working in the US industry when like in horror, so I cannot really compare. But yeah, in Europe, I can, and even in France and in England, it's a bit different. I'd say both of them are really curious about horror. I think in France, it's even more of a male game at the moment, but it's again getting better.
Well, that's good to hear. That's
Yeah.
good to hear. I hope to see more horror female filmmakers enter the
Yeah.
festival.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. No, that's great. No, this is great. So, are there any, like you mentioned, are there any female directors or creators in the horror genre who have inspired or influenced your work throughout the years?
So yeah, so Gia Ducorno is definitely one. She is really, really smart. She's like everything in her films have a purpose. Like when you watch at her interview, she can explain why she's using a specific prop at a specific moment. She's really thinking about everything. The theme and the form of her film are always really matching in a really interesting way. And she's doing a lot of body horror as well. So she's definitely an inspiration. I noticed the other day I was like making a list of my favorite filmmaker, and over the past few years, most of them have been women. It changes. My list changes all the time. Like I always I watch a new film and it becomes my favorite film. But right now, the films that are the most influential to me have been made by women. They're not all horror. I really there's another genre I'm really into, which would be I don't know. I think you can call that like British social realism. Which is when they use like a handheld camera. They're talking about themes that are like anchored in the everyday life. Sorry, that's my battery thingy. And so yeah, they're talking about subjects anchored in the everyday life, and the way they film is like really bringing you into the world of the character. And you really experience the world through their eyes, and it's a technique that I really like and that I try to transfer into horror. That is why in my film we have a handheld camera. I feel like in a lot of horror films, most of the time, it's more static. In my film, it has a social realist approach, but in a horror setting. And so directors I really admire in that sense are Andrea Arnold and Charlotte Wells, Lynn Ramsey. Lynn Ramsey, did we need to talk about Kevin, which is horrific in some ways. So yeah, I think these women are really inspiring in the way they're like experimenting with the form of the films. But yeah, I think those are my big influences at the moment. I'm trying to think if there's anyone else that's coming up, but I think it's mostly these women here.
That's awesome. So, since this is the Looks Creepy Cool podcast, we always ask our guests, what is the creepiest thing that's happened to you, and what's the coolest thing that's ever happened to you so far?
So far. So the creepiest thing, it's a long story, but I think it's a funny one. It's a funny one now. It wasn't funny when it happened. When I was 20, I went to Australia, and with some friends we rented a van and we decided to go up the whole East Coast. And so what we would do most of the time, we would drive through the day, then stop most of the time close to a beach, have a barbecue, and go back the next morning or like visit the area. And one night we ended up doing that, but as we were like sitting next to the beach, a local man came to us and told us that we were not allowed to do that here. And he offered that instead we come and stay in his backyard.
Oh my god!
And and like
Wow.
so the group it was 3 girls and 2 guys, and of course the 3 girls we were like no, but the 2 guys they didn't even think about answering, and they were like yes, of course, let's go.
Oh my god!
And so we went. We like drove for like 20 minutes. We lost network. Like we were literally lost in the middle of nowhere. It was like the man was he looked a bit dodgy. He was a bit scary. He was really like redneck Australian. So he brought us to his garden. He started building like a little barbecue for us to be able to eat. And as he was doing so, he started talking about the pit, and he was like, he was like, I want to show you guys the pit. Do you want to see the pit? And
Wow.
again, the girls were like, no. And one of the guys answered yes. But as he answered, like, you could see in his eyes that he regretted his answer. He was like, please, like, he looked at us, he was like, don't let me go by myself. And so we followed him. We went to see the pit, and the pit was like lost in the back of his garden. His garden was huge. Like it was I think a sort of farm. It was very dark. It was hard to say what it was really used for. But it was like the back of his garden, like in a small forest, and it was literally just a pit. But against it, there were like a lot of abandoned cars and like destroyed washing machine. Yeah, it was like, is it where he's bringing his victims like before killing them? So he brought us there. We survived. He told us we could have a shower in his daughter's room if we wanted. His daughter's room was, again, everything was in the back of his garden. His daughter's room was in the back of his garden. It was, I'm not kidding, it was filled with like creepy dolls. A line of creepy dolls. The light was not working in it, and there's been the biggest spider I've ever seen in my life. It was Australia, so it was the biggest spider I've seen in my life. And my friends and I, we were not really reassured. I was the one who watched the most horror films, so I was like, okay, who's gonna die? Who's gonna die first? I literally put my shoes next to my bed so that if I had to wake up in the middle of the night and run, I'd be ready. And then we went to sleep. I didn't sleep very well, but I still managed to sleep. And
oh my god!
And the next morning, I was like, okay, I was just imagining everything. It's fine. I started waking up, and the boys woke up. They looked super panicked, and they were like, "Fuck!" And they just like moved to the front of the car and started going. And when we were like, "What's happening?" They were like, "Oh, the guy was like peeping through the window, like trying to look at us." And yeah, this poor man was maybe just like trying to see if we were awake so that we wouldn't miss our ferry, or maybe he was really nice. And but it was just such a scary experience, and it really felt like a horror film.
Oh my god! Thank God it lead to like a horror film. Oh my god, that's scary. That's scary.
But I felt like if it led to a horror film, I would have been the most prepared one because I watched so many of them. So I knew where to, like, I spotted where to hide and everything, but
right, and you would know who would die first then, pretty much.
Yeah, like I would like boys would have died before me. Like boys always dies before girls in film. I would have survived.
Coolest thing that's happened to you?
The coolest thing, I think it's when I was 8, which is cute, but also a bit sad that it's the coolest thing happened in my life so early on, and nothing topped it since. But when I was a kid, I used to fence very competitively, and I really loved that. And at the time, there was this Olympic champion. Her name is Laura Flessel. She's the most famous fencer in France, and she came and trained for a summer camp in my town, and I met her. And I offered her a little Brazilian bracelet for luck because she was going to the Olympics. Wow. And at the Olympics, she finished second. And then she finished third in the team events. And during one of her interviews on TV, she thanked me. And and that was just really, like, it was so nice because she was like my idol. And she thanked me in front of like everyone in France. And I didn't get to see it, but my friends watched it on TV, and they were like, "Oh, she talked about you on TV," and it was really, really cute. And then I got interviewed by the local news, and when I was 8, that made me feel really important. So it was great, and I think it's like it maybe not the coolest thing that happened to me, but it's definitely like the most heartwarming one, and I think about it a lot, and I'm thankful that Laura Flessel did that. It was really kind of her, and it's a really good memory.
That's amazing.
Must have been
oh, go ahead, sorry.
Must have been a really cool bracelet, right? Lucky too, lucky bracelet. Cool, lucky.
Yeah, it was a lucky bracelet. Maybe I should start doing more lucky bracelets and like wear them myself and see where it leads me.
Sentiment too in that.
Right. And like, you like she was she met you, you gave her you gave her the bracelet and everything, and she thanked you and everything. It's some form of like inspiration in a way, because it inspired her to really pushed her to like really win second place and then third place. So what advice do you have for like female filmmakers in terms of like, what inspires you every morning to get up and still go through and do what you do, even though you may have bad days, you may have more bad days than good days. So what advice would you give for inspiring female filmmakers?
I think it's so for like every filmmaker in general first, and then I'll talk a bit more specifically about female. But I think for every filmmaker, it's good to remind yourself why you are doing what you're doing, and not just in terms of like your career, like in terms of specific projects as well. I think it's good to find one thing that really excites you about like that makes you feel like a child when you think about it. So my previous film, Ryan's Baby, it was the makeup. Like when I saw Sophie's makeup on TV, I was like, this is so cool. I want to do the same. And then I emailed her to see if she would accept to work on the film, and I thought she probably would never answer. And she actually really liked the screenplay and decided to work on it. And we collaborated together. It was great. We became friends, and I'm really happy I did. And like every time I had moments where like making the film seem difficult, I was thinking, but this is going to be so cool when you're going to do the makeup. And I think it's nice to have this moment that just reminds you the magic of filmmaking and why you want to make this specific project. So whether it's about the theme or like something you want to try visually or like an actor you really want to work with, try to find at least one element of the film that makes you really excited about it, so that even in moments where one of the actor gets sick and cannot shoot the film anymore, or one of the location fall through, or you cannot have the camera you wanted to rent, you still have this thing that is motivating you to do it and forces you to find creative ways to make it happen. For female filmmaker more specifically, I think it's really important to surround yourself with people who remind you of you. And it doesn't necessarily have to be other women. I think I've had really great collaboration with men as well. On Arian's Baby, the team was mostly female, and it was really nice. It was like the shoot was stressful because there was a lot of things to do, and not a lot of time. But I always felt supported, and it was nice feeling that this like calming, supportive female energy, even if a lot of men were also involved in the film. But yeah, I would say try to work with people who remind you of you and who offers you this support and who don't really doubt you. And again, this can be men. But yeah, and if you can also try to help other women. I think once you reached a point that makes things a bit easier for you, don't be selfish. Don't try to make other women look less good so that you will look better. Like try and help other women to be by your side, because it's just better for everyone.
Yeah, that's so important. That's so great. That's so great.
Yeah, I hope they're good advice. I think most of the advice are adaptable for both male and female. Especially, I think it's hard for everyone to make it in the film industry. It's obviously harder for some people than for some others. But I also believe that it's good to avoid creating discrimination and just to find a way to make everyone work together.
No, that's so
It's a bit idealistic, maybe, but
No, it's something that everyone should all strive to do, like support other women and support other people instead of just once you reach the top, like trample on them or just disrespect them or whatever, because, karma is real. What goes up sometimes might come down, and it's just important to just, just like help each other out, which is great.
Yeah, no,
So we have
definitely.
one more question for you, and then we'll just like let you go. But this has been amazing. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, speaking of women, bringing other women up, that's really great that you're doing this podcast. So
well,
yeah, thank you.
No, like I started, and then like Louise has just been amazing, like with everything. And yeah, so it's just, super exciting. So we're hoping to spread the word even more. And
Yeah.
yeah, if you know any female filmmakers and everything, tell them to hop onto the Looks Creepy Cool podcast.
Yeah. Or your
Oh
hair and makeup
yeah.
person for your
Yeah.
film. Yeah,
Oh
definitely
yeah,
would love
I'll
some
talk about it. I'll
experience.
talk about it with her.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, yeah. So finally, what upcoming projects or ideas are you excited about, and how do you see your work evolving in the future?
So right now I'm working on a proof of concept version of what I hope is gonna be like my first feature film. So it's called A Siren Song, and it's a horror fantastic film that is exploring the rivalries in female friendship. So speaking about putting other women down so you look better in the eyes of men, that's exactly the what the film is exploring, like how the male gaze is impacting how women perceive each other and how girls are internalizing discourses that pit them against one another. And
Wow.
so the story follows a teenage girl whose name is Jo, and Jo is spending her holidays with her best friend Helen in a coastal town. And she's really envious of the attention that Helen is getting from the boys of the town where they're spending their holidays. And one night, as they're playing Truth or Dare, she's dared to go dive in the water, and there she meets a mermaid who offers her mysterious power of attraction that would allow her to finally be able to compete in the same league as Helen,
Whoa.
but that would change her friendship with Helen forever. And so it's a twist on the Little Mermaid story.
Oh, very cool.
And yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. Speaking about like finding something that excites you about it, here it's like really the mermaid aspect. I'm super like, I find it so cool to use this theme and finds way to like make it resonate with the theme of the film. So yeah, no, I'm really excited to work on this. I have the screenplay ready. I'm working on getting funding to make the short, and hopefully the short will be great, and I'll be able to make a feature film from there. So yeah, that's my main focus. But I'm also writing another short film that's happening in the Middle Ages, and I'm also working on my French short film that is exploring the theme of women in sports. And so yeah,
Cool.
I'm pretty excited about all of these projects, and it's nice to be able to do them in different languages and different countries as well.
You are
So
busy.
Yeah.
I'm trying to be.
Wow.
Yeah,
No,
I got to make my parents realize that it was a good decision to not do political sciences and keep going with filmmaking.
yeah, no, it's great. It's great. And Mahee, thank you so much for joining us on the Looks Creepy Cool podcast. We hope you had a great
Thank you very
time. We had a
much.
great time. And yeah, no, this has been great. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank
And
you.
sorry to Henry, whose last name I forgot, who made the drawings for the film, because they're amazing. And yeah, and thank you to all the HUDs who helped me making the film. So I mentioned Sophie and Sherry and Abby, but I also want to mention the boys because I didn't. So thank you to Peter Hogginson and Darren Kosh and Florent Thomas, who really helps bringing this film to life. So, yep.
Awesome.
Thank you.